Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. I'm just going to give people a chance to get into the room. And before we get started, I just want to say that I hope you all are doing well and staying safe during this crazy time. Before we begin, please feel free to write in the chat what college you're with and where you're at in the world, and your title, anything else to introduce yourself. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to the NISOD monthly webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Shifting Entrepreneurship from the Perimeter to the Core. My name is Nicole and I am NISOD's membership coordinator. I have a few reminders to share before the webinar begins. The recording of this webinar will be available on nisod.org under webinar archives within the next 24 hours, along with the slides from today's presentation. If you experience a technical issue during the webinar, I will try to respond immediately via chat. If it is a question for our presenters, please be detailed if you're referencing a certain slide. There will be some time at the end of the presentation for your questions to be answered. All attendees joining us will receive an email with proof of attendance for today's webinar. This email will arrive shortly after the presentation. Unfortunately, we're not able to credit those viewing the archived recording at a later date with participation. Lastly, you will have the ability to ask questions throughout the presentation using the chat feature. You may find the chat feature by hovering towards the bottom of the screen. Please take a moment to select to all panelists and attendees on the chat dropdown so that everyone can see your comments and questions. I'll give everyone a moment to do so. Thank you for updating the chat feature so that your messages go to all panelists and attendees. Presenting today's webinar is Gary Schoeniger, who is the founder and CEO of the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative, Imran Siddiqui, District Director of Entrepreneurship Experience at Broward College, and Michelle Levine, the District Director of Faculty Development at Broward College. So at this time, they will begin their presentation.
How to unmute. All right. Well, hey, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to share with you some of what I've learned about the entrepreneurial mindset. As Nicole said, my name is Gary Schoeniger. I'm the founder and CEO of the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. What I want to talk about today primarily is how do we shift entrepreneurship from the perimeter to the core of the way education operates? That's sort of the overarching theme of my talk. And then Imran and Michelle will join me in a few minutes to kind of talk about how they're putting some of these concepts into play at Broward College. It's really quite exciting what they're doing there. So why is my, all right, why? There we go. Okay, so sorry about that. Eli, my company, we're the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. We specialize in entrepreneurial mindset education, and I want to emphasize that our focus is really on the mindset. We do professional development, training, and entrepreneurial mindset education courseware. That's what we do. So let's just get started with this idea that the world has changed in ways that now require everyone to think entrepreneurially, to be more innovative and entrepreneurial. And the point that I really want to make here is when I'm using this word, you know, entrepreneur, it conjures the image of a business owner, someone who starts a business. And I'm asking you to sort of broaden your understanding of entrepreneurship. And in my world, that understanding how to think like an entrepreneur can empower people in myriad ways. You know, one of those ways is starting a business, but it can empower people in many other ways. So that's really what we're talking about thinking and acting like an entrepreneur, not necessarily starting a business. But back to my earlier point that we are now at a place in the world in time where everyone needs to think like entrepreneurs, regardless of their chosen path, regardless of their careers. We all need to learn how to think this way. And I'm going to use this graphic illustration to really drive home this point. And you know, you don't need me to tell you that the world is changing. You hear it every day. But I lifted this graph from a conversation in Thomas Friedman's most recent book called Thank You for Being Late. In a conversation he had with Astro Teller, I've forgotten his real first name, but he's the head of Google X Research, and he kind of scratched this out on a napkin. I thought it was quite helpful. So the vertical axis is the rate of change, and then time is the horizontal axis. And kind of Teller laid it out like this. Like, so this curve represents the rate of technological advancement over time. And so if you think of this first orange dot as, you know, sometime in the pre-industrial era of the Middle Ages, right? The technological advancement is very, very slow is the point here. If you know, over the span of 100 or 200 years, like nothing much really changes. And so let's imagine this second dot represents sort of the awakening, the Renaissance, the scientific revolution, and ultimately the age of enlightenment that leads to the industrial revolution in this, you know, which is a point in time that unleashes this unprecedented era of inventiveness, right? It's the sort of human potential is unleashed. Now the third dot, let's say, represents sort of the dawn of the 20th century. And now we have like disruptions are happening. And let's say, for example, the assembly line, Henry Ford's automobile, right? Which is disrupting the horse and buggy world. And the point here is that Teller makes is that this takes decades to really unfold. It just doesn't happen in 2 or 3 years. It takes decades so that we have time to adapt. There's time to enact laws, to build roads, to kind of figure things out as it's unfolding. Well, now let's imagine this last dot is kind of where we are today. And as you can see, it's on a point in the curve where the change is almost going straight up. And the time that it takes for these disruptions to unfold is now gone from 20 or 30 years down to a few years or less. And, you know, so we have a harder time adapting. And so the second line that Teller introduces here is what he describes as this human ability to adapt, which is sort of a gradual uphill slope, right? And I think this is what Alvin Toffler wrote about in Future Shock, right? At some point in time, we're going to reach a point in time when the rate of technological advancement exceeds our ability to adapt. And so I think, you know, what Teller's arguing, and I would almost argue that we're there, like we're at this point where we can't keep up. And what, you know, so how do we bridge the gap, right? How do we keep up with this rate of change? And one of the points that Teller made in this conversation was we have to optimize for learning. And I really, you know, latch on to that phrase. And what does that mean? How do we optimize for learning? So another point that Teller makes is that none of us has the capacity, the capability to keep up. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care what, you know, domain you function in. None of us has the ability to keep pace, right? And I think that's a really important point to acknowledge. We're not the only one that's struggling to keep up. The point here is that entrepreneurial people are the best equipped to adapt, right? And if you look at entrepreneurs, they have the attitudes and skills that best enable them not only to adapt and thrive amidst this rapid change and uncertainty, but the attitudes and skills that better enable them to contribute, right? You think of what entrepreneurs do, right? These are the folks that are able to identify opportunities that the rest of us overlook. But they're also able to like mobilize resources and make things happen when the rules aren't clear and the path is not well defined. And that's really, I think, the more important point. I just finished a fascinating book from a cognitive psychologist named Gary Klein. And what he points out is that we're really good at learning how to function in broad daylight, where the rules are clear, the path is well defined. We've gotten really good at that, right? We're really good at functioning within well-ordered, stable circumstances. And what we need to learn now is how to function in the shadows when the rules aren't clear and the path is not well defined. And we need to learn how to function in highly ambiguous, resource-constrained environments. Entrepreneurs are the best equipped to do that, right? And so what can we learn through the observation and analysis of entrepreneurs? That's the big question, right? So I'm not the only one who's saying these things, right? That like big thinkers around the world have recognized the importance of entrepreneurship education. And I'm just going to point to a few here. The World Economic Forum published a piece saying that entrepreneurship is a societal change agent essential for developing the human capital necessary for building societies of the future, right? They're saying lots of things that indicate, you know, we have to go beyond just the startup. I think the point here, that's a better way to say this, is we have to stop thinking of entrepreneurship in this binary way. Like you're either an entrepreneur or you're an employee. Like you're either one or the other. We have to start, you know, kind of putting both of those ideas together. Another little data point comes from the OECD in a paper they published in 2015 called Entrepreneurship in Education. And in this paper, they talk about entrepreneurship education as a method of increasing societal resilience, individual growth, increased academic engagement, and improved equality. I mean, these are, you know, just 4 things that they cite as some of the benefits of entrepreneurship that are beyond just economic impact or job, you know, wealth creation or job creation. So another quote from the World Economic Forum that you'll recognize here is that they're saying that it's not enough to add entrepreneurship on the perimeter, that it's not enough to have a makerspace or your, you know, an entrepreneurship program within your business school, that it needs to shift to be part of, to be at the core of the way education operates. And I think that's really fundamental to this presentation, to our work, and that's kind of what we do at Eli, is help academic institutions do that, make that shift from the perimeter to the core. So the big question is how, right? So how do we do that? I mean, I think, you know, we can all recognize the importance of doing that, but then it comes down to the practical reality, like how do we do that? One of the ways that we do it is I think we have to start by redefining the term entrepreneurship, right? We think of it as like a Mark Zuckerberg. We think of it as a small business owner. We think of it as an evildoer, like someone who exploits others for their own gain. I've been studying entrepreneurship and looking at this from a behavioral perspective rather than as a business discipline, which has been really helpful in understanding the underlying causes that drive entrepreneurial behavior. And I came up with this very simple definition. And if you look at what the everyday entrepreneur is doing, is they're pursuing opportunities to create value. But the important point is that they're pursuing opportunities to create value for other people. And that's really a simple definition that defines entrepreneurship in a way that anyone can embrace. You don't need to quit your job to do this. You don't need to start a business to do this. You don't need to drop out of school to do it. You don't need to have a genius IQ. You don't need to be a creative. You don't need a Stanford MBA. You need to figure out how to make yourself useful to other humans. That's really sort of the essence of the entrepreneurial mindset, and I'll get to more of that later. So when we look at entrepreneurship and we break it down into these categories, right? What do entrepreneurs, so how do you pursue opportunities, right? Well, that's problem finding skills, right? That requires empathy, curiosity, observation, and inquiry. It requires problem solving skills, which require creativity and innovation, critical thinking, experimentation and adaptation, collaboration, teamwork, networking, effective communication, resourcefulness. And it also requires self-direction and self-regulation, which speaks to the need for an internal locus of control, the ability to tolerate ambiguity, to become a self-directed learner, to become self-aware, and to develop resilience. And broadly speaking, the point that I want to make here is that entrepreneurial attitudes and skills are 21st century skills, right? These are the skills employers demand. And the point that I really want to make is that there is unlimited global demand for people who can think like an entrepreneur. I mean, that's really the point. These are the skills everyone will need to adapt and thrive and contribute in the 21st century. Okay, so we talk about an entrepreneurial mindset. I gave a simple definition of entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunity to create value for others. I want to briefly talk about what is a mindset, right? Everyone uses this word, but there's not a lot of structure. There aren't many clinical definitions that are all that useful. So what I did was I sort of took Edgar Schein's definition of culture and I sort of repurposed it, because a mindset is sort of like our individual culture. Or to think of it differently, culture is our collective mindset. In any case, I'm defining mindset as a pattern of basic assumptions learned by an individual as he or she solves problems of external adaptation and internal integration, social integration, that has worked well enough to be considered valid and therefore assumed to be the correct way to perceive, think, and feel in relation to those problems. Now, I recognize that this is a little bit clunky, but it's very, very precise. And I've simplified it a little bit to just say a mindset is the underlying beliefs, deeply held ingrained assumptions, and the mental models that influence our decisions, largely without our awareness. I think it was Carl Jung who said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that's sort of the nature of a mindset. And I like to use the iceberg analogy, right? On the surface is the outcome of the mindset. That's where the visible artifacts appear, right? Just beneath the surface resides our explicit knowledge and our espoused values. And I'm using some of Schein's terms here, but nevertheless, like this is what we know that we know, or we say that we value, right? But what shows up on the surface is less likely to be the result of your explicit knowledge and espoused values than it is the result of your implicit knowledge, your deeply held values and taken for granted beliefs and assumptions. That's what drives what shows up on the surface, right? So here's a useful way to think about this, right? I think it was Deming who said, every system is perfectly designed to create the outcomes that it's creating, right? So a mindset is a belief system that is perfectly designed to create the outcomes it's creating. So what we're saying is when you look at what's on the surface of the iceberg, if you don't like the results, you got to dig down to the base of the iceberg and tease out these implicit knowledge, the implicit knowledge and deeply held values and take it for granted beliefs and assumptions, right? So how do you do that? And that leads us to, one of the key takeaways from this webinar is how do you identify the barriers, both at an individual and an institutional level, right? So I was just saying to Michelle and Imran before the call, like, how do you eradicate a tumor or surgically remove a tumor that you can't find or you can't see or that you don't know exists, right? Well, the simple answer is through a process that I call micro-experimentation, which is really what entrepreneurs do. They're constantly trying lots of little things and they're learning from the results. That's how we tease out, that's how we bring to the surface the deeply held assumptions that are driving our behavior. I mean, that's an oversimplified answer, I recognize that, but that's really kind of what we teach as the process at the core of entrepreneurial, to try lots of little things that will bring your assumptions to the surface. So in conclusion, all I really want to say is that after studying, hundreds of entrepreneurs, I think it comes down to this sort of the essence of the entrepreneurial mindset is this deeply held belief that it's my responsibility to figure out how to make myself useful to others. And by doing so, I can empower myself. And that's really what my first book, Who Owns the Ice House, was about. And maybe we can put a link to that in the notes here to this when we're done. But that's really sort of the key idea here, and how that's different from the more prevailing, let's say, employee mindset, which assumes that someone else is going to tell us what is useful, and they're going to pay us to fulfill a predetermined, well-defined role. And if you start to dig into the difference between those assumptions and then you extrapolate over time, you can see how the entrepreneur develops the attitudes and skills that better enable them to adapt and thrive amidst uncertainty. So the answer to the big question, how do we shift from the perimeter to the core, is really deceptively simple once you understand entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunities to create value for others. And I borrowed this from Jaime Casap at Google Education when he said, stop asking students what they want to be when they grow up and start asking them what problems they want to solve and what they need to learn in order to solve those problems. It really is that simple. And when you start doing that, you'll start to see significant change at the administrative level, at the faculty level, at the student level. And I'm going to now pause in my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle and Imran, who are going to provide an amazing example of some folks at a college at Broward College that have taken these ideas and really run with these ideas. Are doing a phenomenal job of bringing entrepreneurship from the perimeter to the core of the way their college operates. So I'll come back at the end for the Q&A, but for now I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to turn my camera off and turn it over to Imran and Michelle.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Michelle, do you want to unmute? I can unmute for you.
Got it, thanks.
Awesome. So, hey, Gary, well said. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Imran Siddiqui, and I'm the District Director of the Broward College Entrepreneurship Experience.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Levine. I'm District Director of Faculty Development at Broward College. I also teach computer science, and I help to lead our faculty team with BCX, and I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining, and hope everyone's staying safe out there. So we're here to present what we are working through at Broward College. We have an entrepreneurship center, and it's more than just a business, accelerator. But we attempt to make it more, and I think we're doing a good job at accomplishing that goal. So, I think it's important to start with the fact that entrepreneurship for us is about mindset and about education and maximizing ability of students, faculty, and staff. So we by no means have all the answers, but we're working hard towards getting to an eventual product. And I think the biggest takeaway here is that folks who are at this webinar should not be afraid to iterate and just dive in, and you'll see the way we evolve, and hopefully you can learn a few things from us in our journey. So just a quick overview of Broward College for those who are unfamiliar. We are a community college in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We have more students than most think. We have 64,000 students across 4 major campuses, which includes numerous branches all over our large county here in Broward County, Florida. We have over 5,000 full-time, part-time faculty and then staff members. And we're also ranked first in America in awarding degrees to African-American students. That's among colleges and universities, and second in America in awarding degrees to minority students. So as you can see, our student population is heavily diverse, and we're very proud of the numbers we've been able to hit in graduating students. We're also very proud of a few times that we've been recognized by Aspen over since 2013, 3 times recognized as a top 10 community college. And in 2017, we had the honor of being a finalist with distinction, so ranked number 3 in the country. So these are just a little bit of an overview of the college and a few facts that we're very proud of over here. So we're presenting today our recipe for success. Now, as I mentioned, have we attained success? You know, we're on our way there, and we're happy to share what we've done in our evolution as a program and as a college, and give a few recommendations and even answer some questions at the end. So like any good recipe, we have an ingredient list. And our ingredient list begins and ends with our senior leadership support. That includes our visionary, which is Dr. Mildred Coyne, who's the Senior Vice President at Broward College for Workforce Education and Innovation. And BCEX was her vision that she continues to oversee it. And it also began with our President Emeritus Armstrong, who is now retired, who actually supported this from the earliest stages and funded and helped to fundraise for our student venture fund that I'll get to in a moment. You know, going over to our current president, President Gregory Hale, who continues to support this. So having that support helps considerably, and it's also a big boost to our team to have somebody in those meetings with senior leadership supporting our program. We are also very fortunate to have a cross-disciplinary faculty team. We have there's myself and my coordinator, Queen Davis, who's on the call attending. Hello, Queen, we love you. And we work with Michelle, who's co-presenting with us here. She leads our faculty team, which are 16 cross-disciplinary professors on campus here. And we are very conscious about making BCEX not just a business product. So that is represented in our faculty team, which are represented by professors from every background, from philosophy and reading and communications to business and entrepreneurship. And then I mentioned we also have our Student Venture Fund, which is a fund that the outgoing former President Armstrong put together from his own pocket and fundraise among business leadership to have a fund there to actually present awards for students to help them get their ventures off the ground once they do launch. And also community partners. We've been very fortunate to have organizations like the Venture Mentoring Team and other local entrepreneurs who have given their time and their expertise, and we also outreach very collaboratively to area higher ed institutions and tech associations.
Thanks. And so in addition to what Imran mentioned, we also really believe that professional development is the core to our success, because we feel that it's really important to educate our faculty and staff first about a lot of the things that Gary was saying, to understand the importance of entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurship education, because they ultimately are the ones that are going to champion this for us and allow us to scale it throughout the college. And another really big part of our program are co-curricular activities, which we'll get into more detail throughout the presentation. One of the things we do are regularly scheduled voluntary meetings with our students, during which we discuss ideation, value creation, entrepreneurial mindset, all of the things that Gary talked about, as well as how to take an idea and turn it into a reality. We also offer a lot of events throughout the semester. So we have a lot of alumni, Broward College alumni that we partner with that come in and speak. You know, we have some successful entrepreneurs that come and speak to our students, as well as community, corporate and community partners that speak to our students. We hold workshops. So really diverse array of activities that we offer for our students. as well as a book club that we have with our faculty and staff, which we just concluded, actually, Who Owns the Ice House with them.
Right. And so so we are going to go through a timeline of our programming. What the point that we want to drive home is that just like ELI and teaches, there is no aha moment, and we didn't have it figured out from day one. We certainly don't have it figured out now, but we are iterating and we are adjusting and we are innovating as we go along. So it began in 2016. As, under Dr. Coyne's leadership, we launched our Innovation Hub. And it was a physical co-working space. At that time, we also partnered with CareerSource Broward, with the local CareerSource office here. And we launched our first accelerator product, which is Startup Now.
Okay, so around summer of 2018 is when we started to really do that shift from moving from the perimeter to the core. So Gary did a phenomenal job explaining the why, which we all believe is the beginning to everything that we do, is understanding the why before we can think about the how. So what we started to do is think about how can we start embedding this entrepreneurial mindset culture throughout our college. So under the leadership of Dr. Coyne, we convened a cross-disciplinary team that consisted of faculty, staff, and administration from throughout the college to really sit down and intentionally brainstorm ways that we can embed this culture throughout the entire institution. And so we partnered with a consultant and we broke into 4 main teams. Those teams were curricular, co-curricular, marketing, and professional development. And we thought about ways that we could address each of these 4 key areas that we thought would be necessary to be able to scale this because we're such a large institution. From that, we then started really taking our own medicine and we started to do some, as Gary mentioned, micro experimentation. And so we started launching some different workshops and events just to kind of gauge student interest, get some feedback. And what we found overwhelmingly was that students really responded to the events that we hosted. And in interviewing faculty, staff, and students, we found that just about everybody has ideas. Everybody wants to be able to add value to others. And a lot of people just don't really know what to do with their ideas. So we really validated that this was an area that we needed to explore and to try to scale throughout the college.
Agree. And similarly, also in 2018, is when our President Emeritus Armstrong donated and fundraised to launch our Student Venture Fund. And at the same time, our former Associate Vice President, Henry Mack, composed our BCEX white paper. And why I think this was important is because it matters whether you have in black and white your true north. That underlines the fact that this is more than, as we will say repeatedly, more than just a business accelerator. While that's a core function of our center, the real goal of BCEX is to create a culture of entrepreneurship and knowledge exchange at the college. That is among our students, that's among our faculty and staff, and even the highest levels of our administration. Being innovative, being thoughtful, and being open to experimentation, and maintaining that sort of philosophy in all of our actions and operations. Inside of the white paper was outlined a 2-track approach, which Michelle can dive into.
Yeah, so again, as Imran said, it's kind of a work in progress. And the 2 main areas that have really emerged is this 2-track approach, that's these 2 different tracks that are happening simultaneously. So one of them is our Startup Accelerator. So this is more geared to those faculty, students, and staff who already have ideas that maybe want to learn how to take those ideas to market. Those would be students who might eventually be able to pitch their ideas to the JDA Venture Fund and are a little bit more business minded. Then we have really the rest of the entire college population where we're really just trying to embed the entrepreneurial mindset as a way to be competitive and to keep up with this changing economy and education of the 21st century. And so that has been really our core focus, is how do we work on both of those at the same time and engage people at the right level and the right people to accomplish both of these goals. And so, as we mentioned, the robust co-curricular programming is one way that we do that. And we'll be talking a little bit about how we're embedding entrepreneurial mindset into our curriculum a little bit later in the presentation.
Yep, and then I came along. That's me and our president, Gregory Hale. So this underscores the fact not about how wonderful I am, but the idea of having a full-time dedicated director overseeing the program. It allows you to do an analysis and think 24/7 about how can we do what we're doing better and how can we improve and expand on what we're doing. Also allowed us to engage in a full court press of external relations, where we have a program representative who can engage with partner and neighboring institutions, higher ed institutions, tech associations, and the such. And just the idea of having a full-time dedicated staff. And I have to mention our teammate, Queen Davis. This is our backbone here at the program. So it's me, Queen, and Michelle, with our crew of faculty coordinators under the leadership of Dr. Coyne. That's our group.
So I mentioned our cohorts. Our cohorts are a way that we engage students. This is a voluntary, regularly scheduled meeting that we do. We have been doing them on our different campuses, and then we have been able to move into a virtual environment now, which we're super excited about. And this is a place where students can come together and learn these concepts, share their ideas with each other. We talk about ideation, we talk about value creation and entrepreneurial mindset, and why this is so important to be able to thrive. On the left here, you see the Finding My Why, which is something we've really rolled out with all of our faculty, staff, and students throughout the college. Our theme of our college this year is actually My Why. Again, we really feel that the why is really the core of everything we do. We want all of our students to be pursuing degrees and careers that are meaningful, something that they're passionate about. So we spend a lot of time really focusing on that area before we get into actually how we're going to implement those ideas. And like Gary said, the whole idea of redefining entrepreneurship to be how can we pursue opportunities that are going to create value for others. That's what we really feel that resonates with everybody, faculty, students, and staff. And so as we were thinking about our curriculum, and we kind of had a curriculum for Accelerator, we really were kind of lacking in how are we going to embed the mindset across the entire college. And that is when ELI really entered the picture. So a few of us had read Gary's book, Who Owns the Ice House? And after reading that, we said, you know what, this is exactly what we need to bring here. This is the missing piece. So we reached out to Gary and his team, and we arranged for Gary to come in. On the right side, you see a keynote that Gary was able to hold for all of our faculty and staff. And then a selected group of 15 faculty members went through a very intense, focused training for 3 days on ELI, entrepreneurial mindset, why it's important. And really, we were able to have an intentional conversation about how are we going to bring this to Broward College. And this is a team, like Imran said, of all kinds of interdisciplinary faculty. So we have business, but we also have reading, philosophy, graphic design, computer science, speech, English, education, everything. So it was really a great way for us to think about how are we now, now that we know what and why, how are we then going to implement this? And so what we're planning to do is actually, next week, actually, we're going to do it virtually. We're excited that we're able to continue everything that we wanted to do virtually. We are going to hold what we call a charrette. And we have an amazing colleague, Patricia Alphonse, who runs our Title V grant. And a big part of that grant is contextualization. So actually, what we're going to do is we're going to contextualize one course in each of our 8 pathways to be contextualized to the entrepreneurial mindset. And so the way that that's going to work is we're going to train even more faculty about entrepreneurial mindset, why it's important. And then we're going to do a one-to-one pairing of faculty who went through the ELI training and faculty experts in one of each of the 8 pathways. And the goal of that is to then embed at least one entrepreneurial mindset learning outcome into each of their courses, as well as 2 learning activities. So we're really super excited about that. And then another great thing about, again, being able to scale, the more people we train, and this is why we really feel that professional development is the key to our success, the more faculty and staff that we can train, then they are able to go and share this with the rest of our colleagues, because we have, as Imran mentioned, over 5,000 colleagues here at the college. So two of our amazing faculty coordinators who you see here, Eileen Santiago and Heather Perez, actually held, so we have an annual professional development day that we do every February where we host, I think 80 or 90 sessions throughout the day. And we had a session on, it was entitled Redefining Entrepreneurship. And this was another avenue in which we were able to expand and share this knowledge with more of our colleagues. And it was extremely well received. Here's a picture of everybody happy on Professional Development Day.
Yeah, it was a great hit, and Michelle led that, so congrats, and thank you to Eileen and Heather. I believe Heather is attending, so hey Heather. And this is just a few photos to share from some of our events and an example of the support that we have at the college. Broward College hosts a speaker series, which are high-profile speakers who address the general public at the Broward Center of the Performing Arts. And before the large address, we were given the opportunity to interview Wikipedia founder Jimmy Wales with our cohort of BCEX students. So keep in mind, we normally run 4 cohorts across 3 campuses, and these are generally smaller cohorts. So this was a chance for our students to actually gather finally as a group and see each other and, you know, motivate each other and kind of feel the energy and actually get a intimate moment with a leader in technology and, in fact, a pioneer. So that was a great accomplishment, and we really enjoyed the college extending that opportunity to us. And also sharing these photos from our check presentation ceremony. We mentioned the J.D. Armstrong Fund. So this fund provides awards. For students who go through accelerators, so they go through either the Startup Now Accelerator or we're going to be launching our BCX Accelerator this summer. That will be, you know, a 1 semester long, once a week for 12 weeks, student-oriented accelerator. And this was a check presentation from this past fall, and it was a big media event. We had a great time, and we were very proud of the results there. And this slide conveys the full ecosystem. When I joined the college and I agreed to lead the program, I really made it a conscious effort to be as open and collaborative and reach out to all of our partner organizations as much as possible. And I really encourage everyone here to take the same mentality in any entrepreneurship centers you're launching. It's easy to fall into the concept or the approach of being competitive, right? I grew up playing sports. I'm a competitive guy. But this does not succeed, and you do not build an ecosystem being competitive. It really needs to be collaborative. So here to the right, you see the tech associations that we have reached out to and offered to work with. Here in the center, I mentioned the venture mentoring team. It's a great local group of entrepreneurs who do mentorship, and they do mentorship on mostly scalable products. And they have SCORE. SCORE is, you know, it's across the country. There should be a local chapter near you. SCORE has been wonderful in providing small business mentorship. And then here towards the top left, you see different higher ed institutions. We're all doing roughly the same thing. You see FAU Tech Runway, Nova Southeastern University is launching an innovation center. You have Startup FIU down in Miami. And I reached out to them, and we as a program reached out and said, listen, why don't we work together? Why don't we put our heads together here and, you know, under the philosophy of a rising tide lifts all ships. And we've had wonderful results that way. When you bring that approach to your partners, the results are just amplified. And here at the bottom, you see some of our corporate involvement, where we have Office Depot's global headquarters here in Boca Raton and Palm Beach County in South Florida. And they included us in an entrepreneurship roundtable. It'd be an ongoing series of conversations. Notion Theory is an augmented reality company led by Christian Bowe, who you saw in a previous slide, who has been a huge supporter of the program, just open whenever. And then magically, the college has been partnering under augmented reality based projects. And also, I wanted to mention here, you see Broward College. Yeah, that's an internal partner, but the college here, it's Broward Up is an effort to bring our educational programming to our most challenged zip codes in Palm Beach County. Really, I mean, in Broward County here in Fort Lauderdale. And the college recognizes the importance of entrepreneurship to uplifting these zip codes. So we are running BCEX workshops within the Broward Up program to help bring our mindset, but also the nuts and bolts of running and launching businesses to some of our more challenged zip codes here in Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, just going back to the ingredients list, I think, Michelle, it's your turn. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So yeah, just to kind of recap, obviously we believe that senior leadership support is extremely important to get you started and then to continue your success throughout your journey. The cross-disciplinary team, again, really, really important because, again, when you think about bringing it from the perimeter to the core, there's going to be a lot of people who hear the term entrepreneurship and think, I don't have anything to do with business. I don't want to start a business. This is not for me. And we really want to change that mindset to really have everybody realize that, yes, this is for you and this is why. And the best way to do that is to have champions and role models who are from different disciplines to help scale that throughout the college. Again, we know it's not possible for all organizations, but for us, a key ingredient to success has been having dedicated staff. We are fortunate to be able to have a full-time program director and coordinator, but even if it's just somebody who's able to just dedicate a portion of their time to the mission, it's really important to have that piece there. We also are very fortunate to have the JD Armstrong Student Venture Fund as something for the students to kind of have out there to work towards. Our community partners have been invaluable to us. Professional development, again, really, really key to the success and to be able to scale this. And the co-curricular activities really help to build that culture of community.
Yeah, and I agree. And to highlight something under the faculty team, our faculty team, it's not just a group of faculty. These are the superstars across the college that have been intentionally selected. And these are folks that are, like I mentioned, cross-disciplinary. So I encourage, along with the full-time staff, I really encourage you to have a faculty team that is very intentionally gathered. A diverse spread cross curriculum, but also folks who understand the mission and support it. So here we are to recommendations.
Yeah, so one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is being able to implement the entrepreneurial mindset with what we're doing as BCX, as a college, as a program. So one of the things that we teach is how to prototype, test, and iterate. And we truly believe in continuous feedback for continuous improvement. Like Imran said, this is definitely a work in progress. We don't have all of the answers, but we're not afraid to test and to try things and to get feedback and then to iterate appropriately. And that's really been a key component of what we do. Again, if you can have dedicated staff, this is really important. Like Imran said, the 16 faculty coordinators that we have, they are superstars here at the college. They're extremely busy in lots of other committees and programs and have a lot of commitments here at the college. So it's really, it helps tremendously when you can have people who are dedicated to this mission. Again, the co-curricular activities help build that ecosystem, and we'd be happy to share with you, some of the ways that we've been able to roll that out. Another suggestion to be able to build the ecosystem is to have a student club where, just any place where students are able to come together with like-minded individuals and share their ideas and have that common vision together. Marketing, again, is going to be key to be able to get yourself, to bring vision or bring visibility to the program. So we do have a social media presence, and we're working on launching our website very soon. And again, the professional development, being able to inspire and educate your faculty and staff are ultimately going to be the ones that are going to bring this to the students.
Yeah, and finally, like Michelle mentioned, it's about taking our own medicine, right? So we were presented with a challenge with the recent COVID pandemic. The entire college went remote. And as Michelle loves, we turned a problem into an opportunity and took our multiple cohorts. We didn't know what to do. It's hard enough to recruit students to take their time, extracurricular, not for credit, simply for their own enrichment, to meet once a week. Now we have a global pandemic. What do we do? So we rolled with the punches. We were agile, and we brought our cohort online. We weren't sure how it would, how much the students would love it, and it turned out to be a big hit. And we had over 50% attendance from our in-person cohorts just for the first gathering last week. So we were really excited about that. We expect it to grow.
Mm-hmm. We were also able to move our book club to a virtual environment. So yeah, we're really happy that we're again able to practice what we preach and turn problems into opportunities, even in this challenging time. And
Yep.
And also, one thing, the last thing on that slide is just being really embracing failure, and as that's something that we teach our students, and it's really important to embrace the change, embrace the challenges, and really learn to like that part of it instead of shying away from it.
Yep. Now we're done. So thank you very much. I will stop the screen share. If you have any questions, this is our contact information. I'm sure it'll be circulated anyways, but if you want to jot it down, we have our social media handles. You can follow what we're doing, but we're always available, so please keep in touch. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Imran and Michelle. That was great.
So,
I see there's lots of questions in the chat. Nicole, are you going to kind of monitor these questions?
Yeah, I did copy some down from earlier. One of the questions we got from Mark Radish was, could the perimeter be more of a comfort zone for many people?
Yeah, so I'll take that one first, and Michelle and Imran, if you want to jump in. I think that's an astute observation. No one wants to change until like you're forced to change, right? We're all sort of creatures of comfort and adverse to changing. So I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of institutional inertia, we'll call it, right? There's an immunity to change. Like, I've been doing it this way. And the incentive, to your point, to the question, like the incentive structures punish people for doing things differently. And that's why, the folks at Broward are so fortunate they have the top-down, bottom-up buy-in, so that, I think the idea there is to reward like micro experimentation and even reward the small failures. I think we also have to redefine what it means to fail. And everyone talks about failure, failure, failure. It doesn't mean epic failure and embarrassment and humiliation. It means reducing the cost of failure. That's what micro experimentation is. And that's what entrepreneurs do somewhat intuitively. If you think about it, like that's how you survive in unfamiliar terrain. You do lots of little experiments. You don't do big experiments because you're going to die. Right? You learn how to micro-experiment by reducing the cost of failure. I see lots of stuff popping in, Nicole. Do you have other questions?
Yeah, James B. asked, how was Imran's position funded? Grants, workforce development, or gifts?
I'm funded through the college budget. So it's the same as anybody else. My position, and Michelle, even though Michelle's a professor, I'm not. I'm a non-academic. I came as an attorney, and I come with a background actually in politics of all things. I ran campaigns. So a bit of a startup background. But Michelle and I are both district directors, and so we're funded as the college is funded.
Imran's position does fall under workforce education.
Yeah.
Awesome. Another question we received earlier from Warren Munich was, how does a college which thinks it's entrepreneurial be entrepreneurial?
Yeah, so I know Warren, I know that's a loaded question that he's sending us.
Yeah.
Warren's a professor of economics, I believe, at Pikes Peak Community College, who I've worked with over the years and gotten to know. It's a big question, and I don't know, Imran and Michelle, if you guys want to
Yeah,
there?
I kind of want to address that. So again, one of the things that Imran have really tried to do is we talk a lot about shared governance here at the college and trying to embed kind of this mindset throughout the institution. This is not just with our students. We're really trying to have our administration and our faculty and staff also embrace these ideas. And so when we talk about value creation process and ideation, it's not just how to start a business. It could be, how are you going to improve processes? How are you going to add value with what you do at the college? So how are you going to improve processes? So maybe you have an idea to start a program at the college. Well, rather than put $100,000 towards a new program, you would use these concepts, these ideas to do the micro experimentation, to do small tests. And really the term we use a lot is de-risking, to really be able to iterate in small tests before you make huge commitments, and it's really validating that your ideas are going to be successful. And so it's not just how to start a business, but how can you use this in all of your daily endeavors, you know, whether it's at work, at home, and at your institution.
We did receive a note from Lisa Salvi. She said, "Thank you, I love the program. Do you have an anthropologist on board? Seems almost like you're teaching them to work through the scientific method with trying different things."
It is scientific method. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
I mean, that's what entrepreneurship is. It's a very astute comment. And that's what we're teaching to people to do is kind of jot down on the back of an envelope a hypothesis and test it through micro experimentation.
Yeah. One of the big, I joke because right now I need to come up with a new acronym, but one of my favorite acronyms is GOOB, get out of the building, because we talk a lot about customer discovery and having conversations with people and being able to validate your ideas through experimentation, through interviews. Obviously, we can't leave the building right now, but we can do this virtually. And so, yes, that is, it's very close to a scientific method.
And the other part of it, like the anthropological part of it, is also astute, because I think, you know, when we try to understand entrepreneurship as a business discipline, we create a bounded rationality, right? Because the term business brings with it an assumption of linearity and planning, and everything's careful and measured and quantifiable. And so I just don't think you're ever going to really understand the underlying causes of the behavior from that perspective, right? So for example, you know, 99 people out of 100 think entrepreneurs are driven by a desire to make money. You know, yeah, we have to make money, but it's that really misses the point. Like, the money is a byproduct of creating something that's useful to other humans. And so it's like, so, you know, from an anthropological perspective, from a psychological perspective, you know, in order to tap into the deepest form of human motivation, you've got to be doing something that benefits other humans. That's why so much of the current workforce is alienated and disengaged. It's because they can't see the connection to what they're doing and how it's creating value for someone else. So that's another important piece of the puzzle, like why entrepreneurs are so motivated. It has less to do with the individual's character traits or dispositional traits, and it has much more to do with the nature of the goal they're pursuing.
I did receive a question from Julia Miro. She asked, does Broward include an arts discipline in the BCX program?
Yeah,
sure.
I think that was answered in the chat. I think that Queen responded and did say, so AHCD, which is our Arts, Humanities, Communication,
Design.
Design, yes.
Yeah.
They are a huge piece of our team. Actually, we have several people from that pathway on our team.
Okay, awesome. Those are all the questions that I've seen in the chat. I don't believe we've gotten any others so far.
Well, we're available. I typed Michelle in my contact information, and Gary followed up with his in the chat. And I made a mistake. Michelle's, I corrected myself, but I want to let you guys know her email is not mlevine. It's mlevine1@broward.edu. And, you know, we're always available. We're super thankful to NISOD and Gary for including us. And, you know, keep in touch with us over social. You'll see the way we are developing our mindset curriculum. We're definitely running with it. Actually, we are leaving this webinar to go into our virtual cohort, where many of our student attendees attended this. And now we're going to do a debrief and do more. We're going to explore actually a chapter in talking to humans and talk more about mindset. So,
Yep.
Yes,
Great.
thank you. And I apologize to everybody for my nouveau chic playroom decor. This is our reality now. And as much as I tried to keep my kids out, I did have one visit from my daughter.
all good. It's
Yes.
all good. And if you want, I put a link in the chat if you want to like check out our book, Who Owns the Ice House? 8 Life Lessons from an Unlikely Entrepreneur. That's sort of the core thesis is in there. These 8 concepts we distilled from interviewing hundreds of entrepreneurs around the world are in this book. It's called Who Owns the Ice House? You can check it out. I put a link to Amazon if you're interested.
Incredible book. Yeah, our students love it.
Highly recommend. Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. Remember, if you do what you always did, you're going to get what you always got.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gary, Michelle, and Imran. I really appreciate you all presenting today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Just as a reminder, the recording will be on our website within 24 hours, so be sure to check that out, and everybody that attended will receive a certificate of participation soon. Thanks again, and take care, everyone.
Thanks, Nicole. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nicole.
Bye.